Julia.
Yeah, Katie's not here.
Katie. Okay.
We'll call this meeting to order, Parks and Recreation Commission, August 5th, 2021, with our call to order. And, I'm sorry. We have an approval of minutes as our first agenda item. I unfortunately printed something missing some of my numbers, but you'll correct me if I'm incorrect? Okay?
I'll move approval of the minutes. Why this is loud? I did give my suggested edits to Scott already, which are in here, but I did see two other things that are in our printed minutes to change. So in 5B, there's a line that says Dave Fahey was in attendance and reviewed this proposal. The line is duplicated. So take one of them out. And then one other little thing in 6C about the pickleball court construction update. The line says Scott Endel have included pictures in your packet. The easiest thing would be to take the word have out. So it just says Scott Endel included pictures in your packet. Grammar.
I'd second Patrick's approval with those corrections.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item 3, public appearances for non-agenda items. I do not believe we have any. Item 4, review and approve agenda.
I'll move approval of the agenda as written. I don't see any reason to change anything. Do we have registrations on any?
I have a registration, yes. And it's for an agenda item, however.
Right. Do you see any reason to move anything up or based on attendance here?
Let's just go with the order.
Okay.
Okay.
As written.
I think somebody seconded. I didn't catch who it was.
Heidi?
Okay, thank you.
Vote?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 5A, final plat amendment request, FPA 2392-21. Scott?
In this, can you hear me? Yep. This item was referred to the Park Commission in regards to the Terra Vesa development. The developer is actually looking to make some adjustments. If you look at, boy, my thing's not coming up here. Lisa from planning provided a staff memo, which I think, why is that not coming through, Scott? Oh, there we go. Takes a little bit to, if I could refer you to the staff memo, which is provided by Lisa Bignabala, and really it relates to the second full paragraph there, where basically outlot 57 and 56, along with lots 288 and 287. When we originally platted this, there was going to be an area because there was a large oak tree there. So we did want to save that oak tree, but it was determined that that oak tree is not salvageable. So the oak tree is going to be removed, but in doing so, there was a readjustment of the size of the lots and those kinds of things. So I think this is to bring that to your attention. Also included in your packet of information is the memo that I put together, and actually with the help of the planning department, which with the Terra Vesa development, there's actually a running total, if you would, in regards to parkland dedication and those types of items, and the memo really gives you a running total of all the different phases of this development, the parkland that has been dedicated. And then if you look at the last on page 21, it does indicate in that last full paragraph that the development currently has a plus 22.44 acres of credit of parkland dedication still on their docket, if you would. So if anything else, I think this is referred to you as a park commission as some information, but certainly your thoughts and recommendation would be sought for this final plat amendment request.
Can I speak?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so I am confused, Scott. What is our role here with this plat? What do you know what I mean? What do you want us to do? Because
Well, basically what they're doing is they're suggesting a change in the preliminary plat to adjust the size of the lots due to the fact that at the beginning when we first platted it, there was a heritage oak in that area, so we wanted to have a larger lot to protect that oak, but there was an evaluation done by a certified arborist, Bruce Allison, that determined that the oak tree was not salvageable. So with that happening, the developer was able to create some additional residential lots, but then he reduced the size of the outlots. So that's the change that they're proposing, which the Park Commission, due to the fact that you're involved in these outlots, should really weigh in on.
Go ahead, Patrick.
So then are we asked our opinion and approval on the outlots or removing the tree? I mean, does this affect anything on parkland dedication? This is all smart code too, so there's a lot of administrative approval.
It's all smart code. I think for the purpose of the agenda item here, it's just an indication that you understand that the oak tree is being removed. It was evaluated. Originally, it was included, and we wanted to save it as an outlot, but it was determined that it wasn't salvageable, so
Right.
they're going to remove it. So there'll be some adjustments in the parkland dedication and in those, I believe. But again, that was the reason I kind of included the staff memo, which actually Lisa really keeps track, if you would, of the tally sheet of parkland dedication and those kinds of things. So to get back to your question, I don't know. Certainly, I think it probably adjusts the dedication and those kinds of things, but minimally, I would say. I can't say specifically how much it adjusts that required dedication and how much they're dedicating. And you can kind of see on page, maybe just for further reference, page 18 of your packet, that's kind of the land use plan, if you would. And you can kind of see the different parklands that are dedicated and those kinds of things. So you've got an idea of the parkland that's already, when this plat came in, it was kind of a land use plan that this was the parkland that we were looking to try and save. So it really, what's happening now is there's adjustments as the development continues.
And one thing that I think I figured out is this is all related to River Song,
Yes.
which is a building, not a subdivision it's a part of Terra Vesa. It's the name of a building, River Song, right?
And really, this is the piece of the, right, it's not specifically where these outlots are, but it's included in that River Song plat, those parklands are included in the River Song part of the plat that's being approved.
I have no questions. I don't know about anybody else who may have some. And this is an advisory, so we're not, there's no motion, you're letting us.
It is referred to us, so we're.
Oh, okay,
Yep,
all right.
so we should
Then we do need a motion.
take action on it, yeah.
I'm sorry, I do have one question. Does this then increase or decrease the relative cost of the park
Okay,
or anything?
I think we need to move with the motion and then we have the discussion. And we don't have the motion on the table right now.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second, how we can discuss.
Okay, go ahead, Heidi.
So I'm just wondering if there's a relative increase or decrease in cost based on these new numbers?
I don't believe the fee collected is going to change because it's still well, I don't know if they're adding additional residential lots. If that's the case, then we would receive additional fees. If the parkland dedication is reduced, we would receive additional dollars in lieu of that. In regards to the specific, the park was planned to be this oak tree with the surrounding, landscape, if you would. So from that perspective, I think it may increase the development of this park because the oak tree was there and we really wouldn't do anything other than preserve it and mow around it. But it may be decided at some point to put a playground or something in this area. But these, those improvements are paid for through the improvement fees that the development incurs as they continue to implement their plan. I don't know if that answered your question, Heidi, but.
It does, thank you. I mean, if I'm understanding it correctly, then the potential for an increase in fees from potential homeowners would likely offset any maintenance or development costs we would need with the tearing out of that tree. Did I sum that up correctly, or?
Yep, that sounds good, Heidi.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Patrick?
Just to pick up on something Heidi mentioned about the city is not doing the work of removing the tree. The developer is, right?
That's correct, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions? Very good. There's a motion which is to approve the.
I'll second.
Oh, okay. Can you would you restate, Sarah, the motion?
I just made a motion to approve the resolution as written.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought it had a little bit more in there,
it did.
but that's okay. All right, those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? On we go. Item 5B is Resolution R 14621, approval of new inclusive playground with installation at McKee Farms Park. And we will, as Julia points out correctly, we start with the motion.
I move approval of resolution R-146-21.
I'll second.
Scott, do you have, I see there's a few remarks that you had made to the group, or do you want to just have Julia explain any of this?
I think I can kind of give a staff perspective of
Sure.
it.
Okay, thank you.
And this is, we're continuing to build our inclusive playground adjacent to McKee Farms Park. We did put an RFP out for the playground structure itself, along with an alternate for installation. We received 6 total bids. And actually what we did is we have a bit of a subcommittee, which includes a Healthy Kids representative, along with a CI representative, which are professionals that work in the field of providing, services and amenities for cognitive and physically disabled residents or customers. So they actually helped us draft the RFP, which indicated which components needed to be included in the proposal. And then they actually helped us narrow it down to two proposals. And actually, CI had one as the number one pick, and then Healthy Kids had the other one for the top pick. So both of them were there. So what we did then do is we had a survey, which we sent out to the public and in Facebook and all of those kind of things. And I did include on page 29 a copy of the letter that was included in the survey, a little bit of a location map of where it was, and then the two options, and then a little bit. There's a bid tab. I don't know why I got that in there. The resolution, and then if you look on page, I think is at 35 in your packet. That was a result of the survey, the tally of the survey. That option 2 had, it looks like 24%, and option 1 had 75% of the respondents in favor of that. So the thought is that at this point, and what I did is I drafted a resolution with both of those proposals included. They did have a budget of $80,000, so it all falls within that budgeted amount. So the question is and I did include a lot of comments that were included in the survey for your information, and I guess at this point we're hoping for a recommendation from the Park Commission to get to council on which proposal you would recommend.
Patrick?
The comments there, are those all of the comments that came in from the surveys?
I believe those are all the comments that we
'Cause-
received, yes.
Because I couldn't find my comments in there when I took the survey.
Oh, you
so-
well.
I don't know what you did with it.
Did you hit submit?
Did you have a name or something in there?
Yeah, I took the survey.
Well, and actually this was, did you complete the survey?
Yeah,
Yeah, this was all generated by our survey,
okay, I'm
our
just
survey.
slightly
program.
questioning that, if it's all the comments. I'll just mention, I did like the Lee Recreation one also, which I see is 3-1 in the votes there. And, I mean, for my comment, I thought that the Lee had more things going on, but I also commented that I did like that zip line that was from the Mid-States, because I said that was a unique feature. My comment then that you might consider for the future is I wondered if it was possible for us to pick elements from different companies until we got up to a total, rather than this company versus that company versus another company.
Yeah, that's real
I know.
difficult. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
difficult. Oh,
Doesn't work, huh?
yeah, that doesn't work.
Julia is shaking her head no.
Yeah.
No.
And
What, and it's a case that different manufacturers have different versions of the different amenities. I think you were right on with your first comment that, the Lee Recreation, which I would agree, seems to have more play value for the amount. But yeah, the idea of swapping back and forth, that's.
So not picking and choosing. The one thing in the Mid-States, that zip line, as I say, look unique, you look interesting, but out of theirs, it kind of looked like that was the one main thing I thought.
And
Didn't
there
seem like
was-
they had much other going on.
And there was other comments similar to that,
Yeah.
they like Lee Recreation, but can we include the zip line from Mid-State?
What was that?
One comment, can I make a comment?
please do.
Maybe you can consider that equipment for the North Stoner Prairie Park, you know what I mean? So you know?
Right, we could look at including a zip line type of feature in a different park, but
Park.
yeah, you can't mix and match them.
And I think we need to consider that most of those kids are going to have some sort of physical disability, and I don't think even the zip, line was part of one of the proposal. I don't know, as a mom, I would be comfortable, it needs a lot of supervision, for that equipment. And also it's one by one, so if you have a lot of kids that they want to use it, you know what I mean? So I don't know.
Sue?
Yes, go ahead.
I know there was, I think, some comment somewhere in there about the zip line, on the other hand, kind of took up a lot of space. So there's that side to it, too.
And maybe just some additional information. This is kind of one piece of this project. We actually had there's a site preparation piece that's involved in it. We did bid that. We only received one bid, and actually there's going to be a resolution in front of the council to reject that bid. It actually came in twice what the engineering estimate was. So hopefully the council will reject that, but it's something that we think that we can do in-house with some forced labor and a combination of forced labor and contractors. And then the final piece is the port in place. So that's the other last component that's going to eventually come before the Park Commission and the Common Council for approval.
Could you explain a little more in detail about what that work is exactly? You say site preparation and then
Site preparation
port
is
in place?
well, the site preparation is basically get it to the elevation that it needs to get to at the base. It also includes, there's a concrete apron that goes around the whole port in place portion, a split rail fence, and then also the path, the blacktop path. And then the port in place is just basically just only the surfacing. And actually with the port in place, we did get bids, but there's different prices for different depths of port in place. And that, depending on the amenity, is fall protection. So if an amenity is higher, then you need more thickness. If the amenity is lower to the ground, then so it really is kind of, once we figure out what playground structure is going to be recommended, then we can get more detailed on as far as the port in place and how thick and all of those, because there's different prices for different thickness. So it's kind of a progression that you need to go through.
What is the surface going to be? Because, I don't know if it's the chopped up tires,
port in
rubber
place.
bits, or...
What's that?
Or is it just the surface mat that is bouncy like Oak Meadows has?
Yep, it's
Like
exactly
that?
like, exactly
Okay.
like Oak Meadow.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. And that'll be all enclosed in a concrete 4 or 5, I think 4 or 5 foot apron that goes all the way around.
Sarah?
I guess I would definitely vote for the Lee option. I feel good that the Inclusive Park Committee had it at one of its top contenders, and then the overwhelming public feedback feels good going forward with that option.
I agree. I see Christopher shaking his head so,
I agree also.
yes. We have to try to remember, I have to try to remember that some people aren't seeing all of us. We can read our room, but there's people on screen that don't see all of us at one time. So our resolution, our motion is to approve something, but it doesn't say what we're going to approve.
So I would, right, I think what you would do, because I did craft the resolution that it was blank.
Yeah.
So it's a case of, okay, Park Commission, are you recommending Lee Recreation or Midstate? And then what I'll do is I'll inject that recommendation into the resolution. So you're right, you're approving the resolution, but you need to be more,
More specific.
please, yep.
So the resolution is then to approve R146-21, the Lee option? Am I stating that correctly, everybody? Okay. I will ask then, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Very good. Wow, we are moving along.
5C, Park Designation and Related Matters, Planning Department. And I'll start out first by saying apologies to Wade that it was tabled last month. So here we are.
And that's perfectly fine. We were able to move a couple other, if you recall, we had the Park and Open Space Plan update moved along, and we'll have some additional updates on that, along with the Egg Park was moved forward. So this is really kind of the same progression, if you would, that this is what staff and the planning department is proposing as their work for this park designation and related matters. So that is really, we're looking for the okay from the Park Commission that seems like a good process. And then what we'll do is we'll come back with a little bit more detailed of what that process is going to be. And this again is part of the Park and Open Space Plan, where we have community parks and area parks and neighborhood parks. But as you recall, when we did the hub project, is this a community park or not a community park? So this will really kind of drill down on the details. So it'll become hopefully more objective. That if it meets this criteria, it's a community park. This criteria, an area park. So it really kind of provides some more detailed description of what a community park, which would hopefully make it a little bit more objective and easy for us to make those determinations.
Okay, I think that's a worthy goal. And I think it'll be helpful.
Yeah.
Any other comments? And I want to always remember to look to see up there.
No.
No comments? Patrick?
I'm curious how this was initiated. Is this an idea from you, Scott, or from Wade Thompson? Or?
Well, this was really an initiative. It may have been Sarah or the Common Council who were struggling with the idea that we actually designated the Nine Springs, the hub project, as a community park. That it was really, there was no objective list of things that we utilized to make that determination. It was just kind of, we thought it was a community park, but I think in kind of flushing this out more, it's a unique feature to our park system, all these different criterias that's going to help us be more objective, so that when new council or new park rec directors or new park commission members are appointed, then they'll have an objective list of what classifies a community park or whatever it might be. And you can kind of see that, item 3, that is actually in our current park and open space plan. So it is identified in our plan as something that we should really work on. But then as things happen, then we say, okay, this really is something that we should work on. And that's really going to be the process of the Park and Open Space Plan update, is that, there's things that 30% tree canopy, there's things that have been kind of brought up. The general goal is in there, but what we'll be able to do is flush that goal out to put a little bit more objective information in each of those goals. So the Park and Open Space Plan that we have, Wade, did a heck of a job in putting all this stuff in there, so that it is in there. But now, because of that situation, we really should kind of flush this out a little bit more. So that's really what the work we're going to do.
Can I add something, Scott?
Yes, please do.
And the other thing that we need to think is not only because of the hub, it's because the city is growing and we are adding more parks to the city. And also we need to consider that the city is acquiring the town of Madison, and there is a park in that city, and we need to, I would say that this is our role as a park commission to determine, what type of, how we are going to categorize a park, because we don't have a clue what type of park is. I imagine it's a neighborhood park. But, and the other thing that this initiative or this revision of this is gonna also, we are gonna look at parkland dedication fee too. So that one is, maybe we haven't reviewed that in a long time, and this is a process that we need to go through to determine is our park fee dedication, because this is another component that sometimes people say that it's too expensive, or we are adding too much cost to a new development. So I think it's a good time for us to also review all of this too. So.
And things change. When the ordinances were additionally adopted, we needed land, if you would, but now things are kind of changing and capacity changes. So we want to try and be as efficient as we can with our land and our resources and so it's time to adjust those kinds of things. So that's really what we're starting to work on.
Patrick.
May I ask a question?
Heidi, sure.
My question, I guess, is sort of twofold. I like this idea of classifying the parks. My question is, A, is this a process that is detailed in the comprehensive plan? And two, how a park will be classified, is it a function of, proximity, of what's around it, cost, size, or a combination of those three?
Are you referring to the city's comprehensive plan, Heidi?
Yes.
Typically, what the Park and Open Space Plan is approved, as part of the city's comprehensive plan as an item. Whatever that Park and Open Space Plan is at that point in time is approved by the city comprehensive plan. So if we update the Park and Open Space Plan, that will automatically go into that Park and Open Space Plan slot in the city's comprehensive plan. So it really is, it talks to the city comprehensive plan. In regards to what classifies a neighborhood park, an area park, community park, currently, if you look in the Park and Open Space Plan, there's a list of amenities for each of those different classifications, along with a service radius, and then theoretically the size of a specific park. So, a piece of the classification, I think, is the function of the park. The size of it might not be as critical, but the function of it, that's really, I think, going to be one of the driving forces of determining what classification it is. Because, community parks, in theory, have unique. We have one, that's why we identified the Nine Springs Golf Course as a community park, because we only have one golf course within the city. Same thing with the dog park. We only have one dog park within the city, so that's classified as a community park. And we have one softball complex, which is at McGaw. We have one splash pad, which is at McKee. So.
Okay, thank you.
Patrick.
So my thoughts on this, maybe we'll get a little more familiar with what this is going for as we go through it, because I see the timeline here is like the next 6 months that this will be worked on. As I read through this and tried to figure out what this is going for, it seems quite general, rather vague right now. So I'm thinking that one thing we should come up with is it's a list of questions that we want to answer with this study. And the questions obviously should be, what the Park Commission wants and how we can edit the questions and get some focus on what we're going after on this. I am particularly interested when I see the park dedication fee in lieu of parkland dedication in there, because I'm very interested in seeing that changed. I've been trying to figure out how it gets changed, and I still can't figure it out. I think it's in the budget somewhere, so if somebody can tell me, I'd be very interested if I can go to a meeting and talk about that at council meeting or so. Because, as I understand it, all of us, or almost all of us, got property tax increases last year, and that park fee has not changed for any time in at least the last 2 decades that I know of. Land is more valuable, and we're still selling parkland back to developers at the very same rate for at least the last 20 years. So yes, I want to see that changed.
And maybe just as a general comment, Pat, we as staff, we'll be the ones that will draft the ideas and the thoughts, and then the Park Commission, you'll respond to those. You know, that's kind of our work and our responsibility to put these things together as your staff, and then get them to you for comment and thoughts and things like that. But certainly, at any time, if you want to provide a comment, that staff will take under consideration when we put it together. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, just like Heidi was asking, we may want to have particular questions that we're interested in seeing exact answers to.
And I think just in the interest of time and workload and for the Park Commission, you're helping us by responding to what we put together and bring forth to you, instead of you working on the master plan or whatever it might be. That we as staff will gather the information, put it together, get it to you for reaction, and go from there.
So would you expect that we will see this on pretty much probably every agenda item from now through the next?
What we'll do is similar to the other ones where Wade, and this really is a proposal with our current staff capacity, so this is what we can do. So Wade will, just as you'll see the Park and Open Space Plan update in a communication, we kind of put a proposed timeline together and what's going to be happening. So if you're good with this, then what staff will do is they'll put together a timeline and a process that will get the work done for the Park Commission.
But again, we should have constant communication with the Park Commission, so would you say that this...
And again, I think that's, certainly you can provide comment, but...
Well, no, what I'm saying is, would we likely see this for whatever's been done in the past month on every agenda for the next...
I would say it might not be every agenda, but certainly when we're ready to bring a thought or an idea or a proposal forward, then you'll have it, and then you'll have an opportunity to react to it and those kinds of things.
Yeah, I would just, suggest keep close touch with the Park Commission. If there's anything to report, put it on our...
If you're okay with this process, we'll come forward with the next step of the outline and the timeline, and if you're okay with that, then we'll work towards providing information per that timeline.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, I think Heidi was waiting first for a
Okay.
question. Do I have that right?
No, my question was answered, but thank you.
Okay, Julia, please.
Yes, I have one comment and one question. My comment is that please ask Wade to include, or the people that are working on this, to include and consider the town of Madison parks to determine which park we are getting, and if we need to, we need to compare also, the park dedication fee that they already currently have and how they compare to ours. The other thing is, who is the staff that is going to be working on this?
That'll be Wade and myself.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other
I'm
questions?
sorry, I do have one more question.
Go ahead, Heidi.
So what I was going to suggest, and I'm certainly not trying to volunteer anybody, but if there are members on the commission that, would like to be involved in helping staff to flesh this out based on, other parks they've been to or other things they've read, anything that may, assist so we don't have to reinvent the wheel, it might be worth, soliciting that sort of information or volunteerism from anybody on the commission.
Yeah, and we'll always, exactly, it's an open communication. If you've got thoughts or ideas on anything, please get them to us, and then we'll incorporate them, that's for sure.
Anything else? Okay, then we'll move on. Item D is Stoner.
Well, and actually, Sue, I think if we could get action on that you're okay with
Sure.
the process that we're
Sure,
proposing
I was reading how the agenda was set up.
Did we have a motion and a
on this?
I
we
would
didn't-
move,
Okay.
What are we, wait. Okay, just so I can state, I didn't see a specific resolution, et cetera, but you are asking for, Scott, sort of a direction to go?
This is under discussion action item, so we're.
Correct.
Yep, I'm looking for that. The Park Commission is good with what Wade is putting together, so we can go to the next step.
All right. So then Scott is asking for a motion to, okay.
Heidi said she made a motion, I believe.
What was it, Heidi?
Heidi, move to approve as discussed?
yes, I would move to proceed as discussed.
Second.
All right. Julia has seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. 5D is Stoner Prairie Park Planning Update. Scott has his remarks, all the information for us. We do have a citizen who will, after Scott makes remarks, et cetera, to speak regarding it and answer questions if needed. But go ahead, Scott.
And actually, as an update, we're continuing to gather information. I did provide some additional information on your packet. We're struggling to try to figure out. Again, the survey platform we're having difficulty with it, but I think I was able to kind of decipher. And I did include a copy of, because what I did is I mirrored the question and then the survey response. Sue did ask, there's some additional Stoner Prairie Park planning comments and ideas, along with the Forestry Department was kind enough to do a tree diversity map for the node, so that's going to be good background information as we continue to work through this. And really at this point, we're looking or continuing to gather information. We certainly are interested in information that the Park Commission may have to offer, but our goal is to, as staff, to utilize this information and come up with a couple, 3 or 4 different options, if you would, to bring back to the Park Commission for your comment and thoughts, and really with the goal of trying to come up with maybe 2 options that we could take out to the public for their comments. We'll grab their comments, kind of make adjustments, come back to the Park Commission to see what you think, and actually the Park Commission will be the author of the plan that'll be recommended to the Common Council and then come back through the Park Commission for final approval. So at this point, we're continuing to gather feedback and information, and we're certainly encourage Park Commissioner, if you have any thoughts or ideas, to share that with you or with us. But we'll, as staff, again, as I kind of alluded to previously, as your staff will begin to start to put these plans together, get them to you for reaction, and then eventually go to the public for their thoughts, and then eventually to the Common Council for approval.
Okay, I have something to add, just sort of separate, just based on my own time spent on the ad hoc committee. And just as a side note, as I'm doing a little paper shuffling here, we had Katie McDonald and Christopher sign on the committee. So I'm just going to ask, take one pass down, and maybe you can throw them on those other packets. That's just a map of some of the parcels, and it kind of relates to something I hope we can talk about just a little tonight. But I'm going to just go over my comments here, and they are that the mayor disbanded the ad hoc committee after the neighborhood survey was conducted, and subsequent work falls to city staff and the Parks Commission. And I believe the full Parks Commission should provide input and direction to staff in advance of their investment of time in creating the renderings. And that's my basic opening statement, because I think the way the mayor wrote the email just talked about the survey results going to the staff and I wanted to make sure, as Scott has done, to make sure we may provide comments, notes that you may have had that you want to pass along if you watched or participated in the committee meetings. And then further, there's handouts that were here on the desk, but not everybody arrives here to look at the handouts. So that is everything that was handed out, except for what I just passed down, which is just a map, one of the oldest maps of the known oldest maps of the area. Everything else was part of the public record in the past, but if we have discussions in the future, then we can have all the public record documents on our drive here so that everybody in the public, and whether you're home or here, has everything in front of them at once. Because we've got a little bit of paper copy, a little bit of stuff on the screen here. So what I would like to see is that in September, we have this item back on the agenda for the Parks Commission to consider an approval of steps which define things such as purpose and process for planning this area park. And just a quick historical perspective, because Heidi was not, nor Julia, following every detail. The rest of us were on the committee starting in October 2020. The Parks and Rec Commission met for the first time to discuss the park. The action taken by the commission was to proceed with planning with Janelle Rice to lead the effort from the community perspective. November 2020, Scott Endel provided more information about planning the area park. And then in the ensuing months, the mayor's ad hoc committee was formed and subsequently met in April, May, and June of 21. And the mayor disbanded the committee after the neighborhood survey was completed. And planning for any park, not just this one, but important to think about, is not just for right now, but it's for the future. And my approach when I was on the committee was trying to always think about 20 years from now, what will someone moving into the area or visiting the park think of our efforts? And so from here forward, this body and the city staff will have to consider, and I'm only listing these because as one of the co-chairs of the ad hoc committee, these were things I was filing in the back of my mind. We have the survey and any subsequent communications to the full Parks and Rec Commission. Budget constraints, which will include unknowns of inflation and materials availability. Our Parks and Open Space Plan with the 3 keywords of sociability, seams, and solitude, and other elements of Fitchburg's comprehensive plan. Tree Advisory Committee recommendations regarding tree protection and 30% tree canopy goal in the urban service area. The site itself, which has certain fixed elements, especially the location of the restrooms, and whether or how proposed changes affect long-term park adjacent neighbors, such as the school itself, and homeowners who have lived there for a long time. We have brand new development. We also have people who've lived in the neighborhood for a long time. And so those are my comments. And Janelle, would you like to present now, and then we can just then speak?
Can you send, how we are gonna get information that Janelle is passing?
Julia, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Janelle is passing some information that Heidi and myself, we are not gonna get. How do we know what is in those documents?
I think it looks like it's just a statement of her remarks, but she can.
Oh, okay, it's not like a maps or renderings or.
No.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Janelle Rice. I live at 2755 Jasmine Drive. I am past Alder, District 4, past president, Lacey Heights Neighborhood Association, previous co-chair for the Mayor's Ad Hoc Committee for North Stoner Prairie Parks. I have a lot to cover, so I'm going to talk very fast. First, I want to apologize. I originally proposed to this body a planning process to craft a park serving the diverse opportunities of this space, including the connecting to the nearby bike trails, adjoining parks, different user types like runners, parks and rec, little tots, and more. The plan would get feedback from the adjoining neighborhoods and then work on top priorities, blending land use and budget. A copy of that original plan is in your packets. Unfortunately, sound planning processes were fought by co-chair Sachin Tooley in favor of a plan he had designed before the creation of the task force, and he lobbied fiercely for that plan since day one. Those that did not agree with him were publicly reprimanded. Some stopped providing input for fear of consequences. Some opted out of the survey for a variety of reasons, including fear and a lack of trust. Recently, you received an email from Mr. Tooley suggesting that his plan met the needs of most of the people and should proceed as is. 2 of the 3 co-chairs, Sue Easterday and myself, were excluded in that email. Others who did not explicitly agree with Mr. Tooley were also omitted, including other members of that committee. I suggested repeatedly that we survey first and then blend elements of Mr. Tooley's plan based on findings. As mentioned, it came to the same outcomes: bullying, attempts to publicly harass me, embarrass me, and silence my voice. Your chair received significantly worse treatment than me in this process. I was grateful for the survey of the neighbors, but the results were suspicious. Seminole Forest had about 3% of their population participate. Lacey Heights, 23%. Stoner Prairie had 51 votes of 80 homes, so 64% of their population. Remembering that the vast majority of that input comes from one neighborhood, and those residents were instructed in precise detail how to complete the survey to control the outcome of the park. The majority of Mr. Tooley's proposed budget focuses on a very specific age group that has duplicate resources just a few hundred feet away at the elementary and middle schools, at the expense of other areas that we have limited access, no assets, or significantly aging assets. You have a document that details the various ways this plan is short-sighted, and I would be glad to answer any questions around those findings. I would suggest that remains of the original balance of $210,000 that were contributed by the William Ryan homes be given to this neighborhood to use specifically on their donated land, or that all the dollars be used by a brand-new team. A new team would be critical. Recent emails suggest information was given to a few citizens prior to public release. Consider the greater good of this park. Do not let the controlling and manipulative practices that harmed this task force and compromise the survey win by giving them exactly what they have demanded since day one, while ignoring the needs of others, city standards, and this committee's strategic objectives. I am willing to go into closed session to provide evidence around any of these points.
Any questions for Janelle? All right.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Sure. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions because, I am not familiar with this park, but I am looking at. So we received some renderings. So those renderings are the one that Janelle mentioned in her statement.
Yes.
So okay. So those okay.
So those are
Okay.
not
Approved.
they're not a product of the ad hoc committee.
Oh, okay. No, because when I saw that, and I also talked to Misty, our finance director, and I asked, what is the budget for this park? And that one was, I think the budget is around, or the parks collect, the fee collected from park dedication fee and from other fees is around $860,000. And I look at the rendering and I was like, it seems very expensive, those renderings. So my question is, the question that I want to have some clarity is, so now the parks committee is going to be in charge of this new park. I am correct?
The Park Commission will be the author of the park or the park master plan that is referred to the Common Council, right? So the Park Commission will be the author of the final park plan.
Okay, my other question is, okay, so who is going to design or the different options in this park? We are going to hire some expert that know how to design park. Who is going to do that renderings? So who is going to do the staff, or who is going to do it?
As I mentioned, staff will go through the information that we've received and come up with some options that'll be brought back to the Park Commission for their thoughts and comments. We'll adjust those draft per those comments, and then we'll go to the public with those options, get their thoughts and comments, and then bring those back to the Park Commission for final consideration. It's going to be, we'll do the best we can. We have no dollars for planning, to hire someone to come in and do this planning. It's, with the help of the planning department and the parks department, we're going to do our best to kind of come up with some concept plans and ideas for this park.
Okay, can I continue?
Please do.
Okay, so I have an issue there because, without all my respect to you guys, you have too many things on your plate. I don't know if you guys are expert on designing parks, you know what I mean? And this is a different type of park because it's a neighborhood park. It's a bigger park. It's not like a pocket park or, you know what I mean? It's like an area park, isn't it? It's a bigger park. So this is what I say, why we cannot allocate some of the fee, to hire, an impartial and an expert on park design to help us, to design the first step of this, you know what I mean?
I agree wholeheartedly, Julia. There's no, the park improvement fees and the fee in lieu of parkland dedication cannot be utilized for planning efforts.
Okay.
Those dollars can only be utilized for the amenities, the implementation of the plan. So we're doing the best we can with the current staff and the current budget to get through the process. Ideally, exactly. And we've got a lot of parkland out there that, it'd be great to have a landscape architect, park planner on staff, but we've got the park and rec director, and I'd go to the planning department and see if they won't help me, and the engineering department, and that's just kind of the lay of the territory right now.
I know, I understand, Scott, but I don't think that this one is efficient, and but what about those funds that Janelle mentioned in her statement, like from, what is, $210,000? Is it like a donation?
No, that's not a donation. That was just part of the various funds that currently exist from the various phases of development. Do I have that right?
Okay.
You do.
Okay.
210,000 is the, I think, the remaining dollars, last I knew, that was the cash contribution from the William Ryan development.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. I thought it was a donation. Okay.
yeah. And so, Scott, when you were alluding again, or not just alluding, you were explaining to us that the dollars cannot be allocated to planning. Is that an ordinance? Is that?
Those, I would suspect, I believe it is. That might be even state statute, that dollars collected for park improvements, fee in lieu of parkland dedication, cannot be used for planning. They have to be utilized for implementation of the specific plan. Case in point with the hub, if you recall, CETA they gave us $30,000 to do the planning effort. So that's how we were able to do the comprehensive planning effort for the hub on off of Fish Hatchery.
Okay, now, at the time CETA was doing that, that was sort of not yet designated a community park, correct?
What, Nine Springs Golf Course is a community park.
Okay, all right. Separately, any other new community park, doesn't that, okay, I misunderstood. I had thought the community park would qualify for planning dollars.
No.
No, okay.
The community parks will qualify for the fee in lieu of parkland dedication. We get a park improvement fee for each specific park.
Correct.
And then we get, if they're deficient in parkland dedication, that fee goes into a fund that's used, a fee in lieu of parkland dedication. So those funds can be used for a unique feature or a community park within the city. So we were able to utilize those dollars for the dog park. We were able to utilize those dollars for the golf course.
But not the planning portion of it. Okay, that's what I misunderstood from prior conversations.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
You're looking at your planning staff, actually.
Okay. Patrick?
The way I would understand is CETA gets the room tax dollars, which are unencumbered, and they decide how that money can be spent, so they provided the $30,000 for planning because they can do that if they vote to do that, right?
Yeah, we received
Right,
a
it's their
donation,
discretion.
a donation for the planning
Yeah.
component of it. And this really, calls to mind too that are, as we continue to look at our operating budget, that we have got so many parks out there that really don't have a plan, if you would. So the idea of allocating dollars annually so that we can hire that professional firm to come in and do the public meetings and put together the renderings and walk us through that public process would make some sense.
And I see Heidi has a question, and I just want to mention quickly, we're all throwing around CETA, that's Community Economic Development Authority, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Heidi?
Just a couple of observations, and I apologize if I'm speaking the obvious here. Some of what we're talking about in terms of planning versus maintenance versus development, a lot of those are generally accepted accounting principles, and so they cannot be allocated anywhere other than what meets specific criteria. The other thing I was going to mention is, and I think most of you know, I work for the town of Middleton, and I work with our park commission there. I help facilitate it, and we have a very small staff. There's only 4 guys, and they're parks, they're snowplow, they're chipping, they're the whole shebang. And so we have one guy that's dedicated to doing the majority of the stuff for our parks, and he is a member of the, it's Wisconsin something Park Association, and they have a lot of really good information in addition to networking that other communities, park staff are able to help each other out. So again, I apologize if I'm offering up the obvious here, but just a couple of observations I had as I was listening.
And that's the Wisconsin Park Recreation Association, I think is what you're referring to, and that's kind of our professional organization for the field of park and recreation. So I think that's might be what you're referring to, Heidi. And you're right.
You're right.
You are right. There's a wealth of information there, but I don't know if they'll come in and plan our parks, kind of thing.
But can I?
Yes, Julia,
can I
please.
speak?
Yeah.
Have you considered, Scott, talking to the school of, to have a partnership with the School of Landscaping Architecture here in University of Wisconsin with some of the students that they want to, bring those and say, what are the ideas, or, I don't know, so.
Absolutely, and again too that you've got capacity issues. You manage those groups, it is nice and it's a nice activity for them, but at the end of the day, your capacity is only limited, so the best use of your time might be to actually do it than try to, coach a student through it and those kinds of things. That's just a general, from experience, observation.
Chris?
There could be an opportunity there for a senior capstone project for, maybe it's, too late for this particular park, but for other projects, parks in the future, that could be a possibility, and that's a year-long, school year-long process. Some instances it may or may not be appropriate, but all credit to the students that the department puts out, biased as I may be, but it really takes a professional to do the community engagement and all the parts that the ad hoc committee started and tried and worked admirably on and did a decent job given the obstacles that they had. But there are people that do this for a living for a reason. It's because it's a difficult job, and I think this park, future parks, are going to suffer if the city can't find a way to dedicate funds for appropriate planning of them. This building didn't get built without an architect. The city wouldn't dream of just putting up a pole shed for us to all meet in. So that's kind of how we're planning these parks. Is we're not giving the appropriate resources to the planning that they deserve. And so we're doing the whole community a disservice by that. So I don't know where that money needs to come from. That's a discussion that can start here, and I'm sure needs to involve city council, but I think this is probably proof that it's a problem that we ought to fight to solve.
Julia.
And the other thing I was thinking too, and I agree totally what you say, is we are getting those ARPA funds, okay? And they can be used for only one time a project. And maybe we can, this is a crazy idea, maybe we can say we want, I don't know, $30,000, $40,000, for this, to hire a landscaping architect to design the park, you know what I mean? Would be an idea, you know what I mean? But I think for me, it's, I want to repeat, this is a very important park, and we need to design it and do it correctly. So that's it.
Julia, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate even more Chris's idea of, at some point, the city has to commit that we've got park planning initiatives that need to go on an annual basis. We need to have that budget in the annual operating budget so we can hire those professionals instead of, chasing this group down and chasing that and that capstone and all of those kinds of things. Especially with the growth of the community, it really, at this point where we could certainly justify the idea of we need to hire professionals to come in and have a budget allocation to, and that may be one of the recommendations that comes out of the, the Park and Open Space Plan update that, the city, and I think there's actually an action item in there that, we need to do, hire more staff and all of those kinds of things. So I think we can flush that out and say, at this point, we need to hire, or not hire, but allocate dollars for the park planning processes that we need to go through.
And I'm going to give you an example. The inclusive playground, okay? We have been working with this park since 2018. I don't know how many meetings we have with people the experts on what are the equipment that we need to buy for, And we have experts on the group that they work with the kids with disability, they know what equipment to buy, so there were a lot of deliberation, but we asked the expert, it wasn't the staff that came out with the list and said, we're gonna get this one, because we don't have the experience, we don't have the expertise, we don't have the knowledge. So this is what I say, I don't have any issue, Scott, that you say, your staff can design a pocket park it, you know what I mean? On a small park. But this is this is something bigger, you know what I mean? And I think it has to be done correctly. So this is what I think my recommendation as a park commissioner will be, we need to hire expert to design it, and this is my opinion. I don't know, maybe
Well,
some commissioners have a different opinion, but we need to determine from where we're gonna get the money. I know that you cannot put it in your budget because you're already working in your budget, and the budget for next year is gonna be very, very tight.
well,
But this is what I said, we have some extra money that the city is getting from the federal government, the relief money that can be used for a one-time project, and this one could be, maybe this one qualify, this is improving the quality of life for the residents and the neighbors, bringing this park, I don't know.
and Julia, not to put you on the spot, but the champion you are for the park and rec in forestry department, and as our alder, certainly the idea of putting in a budget amendment for park planning is certainly something that I know we'd support.
I see Heidi has a question or remark.
Well, the ARPA funds that Julie is referring to, I would caution that it gets researched very thoroughly before any funds are spent or committed for developing for a park, because I know that the requirements are very strict. And I'm not an accountant or anything, so I don't know what those are, but I just know that that's one of the things we've run into at the town, is what can and cannot be allocated to use those funds for. And the other thing, and maybe I'm altruistic here, but if there is a goal of using an expert, I don't know, Veerbecker or whoever, would there be a possibility of giving sort of naming rights or having placards put on equipment with that company's name, designed by so-and-so in lieu of a fee or by way of a discount of a fee? Is that something anybody is able to do?
Staff is not able to solicit donations for projects.
Our
as-
commission members?
Oh, well,
I just know staff isn't allowed
Yeah.
to do that. I don't know
Well,
if,
the only reason I ask is because personally, I feel like, you guys probably have enough experience, having been doing this for so many years, that, you would probably be able to design a pretty good park. But maybe those on the commission that are, very much would like to have an expert, maybe if it's kosher for folks to be able, for commission members to be able to solicit donations, maybe that's something, we could kind of put our money where our mouth is.
yeah, I think, Heidi, the safest and the best process would be to have dollars allocated in the operating budget, and we do a public RFP for planning services for a specific area, and it's a public bidding process. Donations and soliciting donations, and then I wouldn't anticipate that there would be improprieties, but just the visual of it, and I don't think we want to, as park commission members or staff or council or anyone, want to show any indication of improprieties, or we're doing this for you, or I think that's just not a safe way to do it.
Christopher.
I'm wondering if we should make this broader topic an agenda item for a future meeting, and have maybe somebody from city staff come in, and maybe we can talk through some options, how we can really focus on getting park planning funds available for the future.
Right, it's germane to right now, but we're also, that train's been out of the station for a while on this particular park,
Yeah, I think,
so.
I guess what I'm saying is the Park and Open Space Plan update identifies a goal in there to provide more capacity for parks and recreation. So I think that would be a perfect opportunity to put it in there, get the Common Council to approve it as an updated plan, and then we submit our budget proposal for $50,000 for park planning per the Park and Open Space Plan.
Right, and, right, none of that would help us right now.
No, but I think it's definitely is something.
Yeah.
Because we've got a lot of parkland out there that
Yeah.
needs to be planned for.
Well, here's a question I have then, Scott. I wasn't anticipating that you're finding the time to put together plans for us to review next month, correct?
Let me see what we can put together, and basically, what I'm thinking is that it may be as elementary as a land use plan for the space. You know, this is what we're looking to do in this, and I would suspect that at the end of the day, it's really going to be kind of a land use plan, and then we'll deal specifically with each of those individual spots. It's going to take some time to get to some details.
Right, well, I'm not pushing you to bring anything in particular back, because I had just made the case earlier, and nobody has to agree with me, that at least one meeting coming up of just talking about the known, publicly, the known sum total of all the pieces of land, simply just from the perspective of having sat on the committee, and Christopher sat through, he might have things to add, Katie's not here, she may, and Janelle, I mean, I know personally, I didn't just spend, 6 hours sitting through meetings. It was hours and hours and hours of gaining an understanding of things. So, and I can put that all down. I've sent a lot of it to you already, but I think it would be good for the commission to know what was accomplished. There was a survey accomplished, but that's just one piece of information. And the benefit of the staff then knowing other little tidbits of information and having it spoken out loud in front of the commission members and any listening public, I'm hoping would make it easier for staff then. Then you may know things that instead of creating a drawing and coming back with it and me saying, this is something that I would have never suggested you do, or, that type of thing.
And again, to keep the process moving, I'd invite Park Commission members to provide any comments that they would like to me, and we'll, as staff, will take those under consideration and begin to start to put together the draft plans for further review. I think it's just, that's the most efficient use of the Park Commission's time at the Park Commission meetings. I think we as staff, we can take that information and work on things and bring that forward. So instead of, I guess that's just what I'm suggesting, so.
I know Janelle, go ahead, and then Chris also.
If I can make a comment, I think that this is a perfect teaching moment. We had two professionals on this committee that are both very well regarded in their space. They volunteered their talent, but they didn't have the authority to come in as professionals and guide that process. And so I think that this is the perfect opportunity to listen to them and see what they normally, the value that they bring to be able to come in, create a structure, create a process, and have the authority to move forward with that. I really think that we can learn from what we've just gone through, identify not only the value of that process, but I think we would have saved a tremendous amount of time and heartache for a lot of people if we would have had that in place here.
And again, I don't want to speak for those professionals on the Park Commission, but they certainly, my phone and my door is always open, so they can certainly stop in and provide that professional insight and guidance as they see appropriate and fit. It's not a case of their voices aren't being heard, but I think we have to respect their positions and how they want to handle that relationship, and leave it up to them on how they want to get involved, I guess, if you would.
The counterpoint to that would be that it's one thing when they're coming in and volunteering their efforts. It's another thing when they have an agreement with an organization and there are certain outcomes that they can hold forward. So, I think about Christopher here on the committee. He probably has a different level of authority within his organization for what he can do and what he cannot do, where they're contractually bound. And I know that he brings his best effort and his best heart. But I do think that there's a difference between where you have an agreement and you have the authority to represent the city and guide those things. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'd say that's accurate.
So that means then, translating,
I think that just further reinforces that we need to focus on being able to get professionals that can help guide the process, that have the authority, like you said, to do so, to be the agent of the city, that carries some authority, that agency, and then they can help guide the process, because it's a tricky one that I'm, the public input part is the hardest part, and that's not my expertise by any means, but I can appreciate how difficult it is, and so having the right people to do that is incredibly important.
And as a park commission member, the idea of reacting to a plan or an idea or things that are brought forward is something that you'd be able to do.
Which is a great segue to what I was going to ask about. As far as for moving forward on this part, like you mentioned, bringing materials back to us to react to, and in my mind, as if I was to be sitting at a drafting table and going to begin laying this out, what I would want to know in my mind is what's all in this survey, is distilling it and saying, okay, here are the ideas that were put out to the public that there wasn't really interest in, that there wasn't the user base for, that people didn't want to dedicate funds to, just to simplify this list of dozens and dozens of features that were proposed as a possibility for the site, weeding those out, or maybe grouping them into high priority items, medium priority items, low priority items, because we know that we can't do it all in the park. There's not the room for it or the budget for it. So if we're able to distill that and classify it, and then staff or the Parks Commission or both, we can say, okay, so here's where the community priority is. Let's figure out how to get that done first. Or maybe this option B, C, D would be really nice to have, and we can do it one day, so let's plan for it in the future, but we know we can't build it right now, but let's leave a space for it in the park. So I think what I might like to see, if staff has the availability to do it, is sort of saying, here are the things that we think we really want to do in the park, maybe even before space planning, or as part of that. Like I said, the information I think is here, so I don't know how labor intensive classifying that is, and maybe others don't think that's a good idea, but that's just where my mind first goes.
I don't negate anything you're saying. I just want to make clear that the survey itself, in my mind, was a problem, because there were specific instructions to remove some of those professional-looking renderings from the survey, and it took a great amount of coaxing to do that, and it was removed, and then the one neighborhood those deleted renderings were provided to just one neighborhood with instructions to that neighborhood to, while you're filling out the survey, look at these drawings. So how do you then, as a staff, look at the survey and say, we've got information here and we can get going? There were a couple of questions that were left in that wouldn't have been the best to have in a survey, because it was giving the choice of two options, for part of the park with very specific design. And again, those renderings were given to that one neighborhood. And really, those questions shouldn't have been there, but that's another matter. But it would be like if you go into an ice cream shop and there's 30 flavors, and someone walks in and says, you can only choose between chocolate and vanilla. Well, we had chocolate and vanilla on the survey, and any other option that we might have thought of wasn't there. So that's survey information that really is not useful. So some of those things, Scott knows those things, but I just don't want a lot of weight put on a lot of the survey. I'm not saying that it isn't what people want, and there's a lot of people who answered that didn't have specific, separate, special instructions with extra pictures, but it's not a clean product, and so I don't want to see staff, Scott and I have had a couple chats. I don't think Scott's going to necessarily have direct staff to come up with drawings that match, but it made a mess of things. So, other things here in paper at each spot are items that those who were on the committee saw on the ad hoc committee, but the whole Parks Commission did not. And some of them are important. So I had just felt strongly that going ahead and just taking another month and talking about it more specifically, if that's what others wanted to do, is fine. Christopher, though, he sat through the meetings and he knows what he may think, and he can send that separately to Scott. It also doesn't have to be stated in an open session. That might work as well. But that's what I would have liked to have seen, and I would like to know what others think along those lines. And I see Heidi's hand there, and if anyone else has anything to say, whether they agree with me or not, is fine. Now, go ahead, Heidi.
Hi. So I just wanted to bring up, and I hate always to be the one to sort of harp on how much is it going to cost here, but I think one of the things that brings me back to when we're talking about parks is that the purpose of the parks are for recreation, for people getting together and enjoying each other's company, for picnics, for exercise, all of those things. And I think that the park, the inclusive park that we're doing is a wonderful addition, and it's very well needed. But I think we also need to realize that not every park that gets put together needs to be, the Ritz-Carlton. I mean, sometimes a park can just be a park. And, and I think maybe, we're always in search of that bigger, better thing that, that's why budget is always such a big issue, because there's never going to be enough money to go around. I guess that's just the only comment I wanted to make. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just will ask Scott quickly, because of the word budget, when Heidi said it, do we know anything more about the Public Works project for the well station? And because we have budget heartburn, we will have about the cost of adding restrooms to the...
Well, not that I'm aware of.
So they,
but,
yeah,
but,
we're
but
not.
certainly, I think that's one of the first decisions that's going to have to be made. Do we include bathrooms? Do we include a shelter as part of that well station? And just taking a look at the survey, it looks to be a pretty. People seem to be interested in including that as part of the park. So
The restrooms.
the restrooms and the shelter, that kind of thing. So
Okay.
that'd be the most immediate, design and engineering idea.
Okay, and they're on a timeline, so that has to happen to their timeline, really.
And as I looked through the survey, there was a couple questions that related to that, and they seem to be a high priority with the people that participated in the survey.
Yes, okay. And there was anybody else? Sarah?
I guess my only comments are that I did not realize that there was more behind the scenes going on regarding this survey. But I do think with any public forum, you raise the risk of having a loudspeaker or someone who's definitely aiming for more time, that I would hate to discount these survey results in their entirety, just because even for the McGaw inclusive proposal, there still was an opportunity for someone to voice their own opinions and try to skew results, where that's unavoidable, I would assume, for a public forum. We still just have to have some faith that people are presenting their own opinions, but definitely it's helpful to know that there may have been something skewing opinions behind the scenes. But I completely agree with Christopher that I think there would be value in looking through the survey results and using the feedback that we did get, because I don't want to discount people's opinions that they submitted to us. And I like the idea of the low, medium, high, and I did think there were some high things that stood out to me. And what I had flagged is, and just as an open dialogue, just for the high points that I had noticed within the survey that seemed to just trend throughout, that there was interest, were walking paths, lighting, quiet enjoyment, shade. And for things that seemed to there also were things that seemed to stand out for low, that continually had low events or low feedback, is just kind of the off-street parking, alcohol events, volunteer opportunities, tennis, pickleball, bike repair, amphitheater, baseball fields, recreation fields. So I feel like I don't want to discount the survey. I didn't realize that there were undercurrents that were not visible to people that occurred with the survey. But I do think that the feedback is valuable, and I'm hopeful we can use things. And I like Christopher's idea of moving forward, and that having this park in place and working with Scott's team to have something in the future.
And I think what we can also do, Sarah, is query. You look at the graph and you find the different neighborhoods that provided comments. So the idea of, okay, what did the Lacey Heights, how did they respond specifically? How did the Stoner Prairie group respond specifically to the survey? So I think there's other information that we can wean out of it, understanding the undercurrent of everything that's going on. But I think we can move forward and try not to look back. I know it's hard to look back, but to understand that it's past, and we're going to try and move forward. And I really do think that once we get something that the Park Commission can react to, I think you're going to be able to provide comments to keep it moving forward. But I agree. Surveys are not always perfect. And there's information, and then there's other and from a staff perspective, we're kind of, the people that are involved are looking at this, but we're as staff are looking to the east and the west, and how's this all gonna connect, and a bigger picture kind of thing. So I think we can come up with a couple, 3 or 4 different concepts or ideas that people can react to and go from there. But again, certainly I guess I just, instead of waiting a whole another month and then kind of rehashing it all, I think we take the information that we have and understand how we received it and begin to start to formulate some kind of plan or ideas moving forward.
Patrick?
Yeah, I made some notes on a few things too that I think are in agreement with what Sarah just said, but I want to find out about something from our speaker, Janelle, here. You had mentioned a rendering and apparently one vision from Mr. Tooley, apparently. I don't know if some of us got this and some of us did not. I don't remember getting any email from him. This rendering or something that you were talking about, is it in our packet, or did any of us see that?
I received an email, I don't know. Someone sent an email to the council?
Yeah, you as the council, right.
Yeah, with
So-
that, and then in that email was a link.
That had a lot of renderings in it, right?
Yeah, so that one, what it was.
So is that,
But let me back up one moment. So none of you saw the renderings?
I did.
Okay, so I did not get it. It was specifically not sent to me, but then a forwarded copy of the email came to me, and on there, it listed all of the Parks Commissioner's emails as having been sent this. And it doesn't matter what the attachment was not a product of the ad hoc committee. There was an email there to making the case that we were done with planning now that the survey was in, and the park was, in essence, planned, and it was Mr. Tooley's vision of the complete park done. So, you know, we're not reacting to that here, but that's what's being referred to. So it's kind of surprising. If some of you didn't get it, that's how it turned out. But it appeared to be that it went to every Parks Commissioner except for me, and all the ad hoc committee people except for Janelle. And the person who sent that out was Mr. Tooley.
I did get an email, I think it was like 3 weeks ago, from a different neighbor who I have talked with in the past, early on in the Stoner Prairie Park planning or meetings, and they made the same allegations about corruption and things like this. That email was about 3 weeks ago, so I can't remember details, but they described a rather bad ad hoc process going on in the meetings. What I'm wondering is, these renderings, even if it is just one vision from one person or so, is it at all relevant that, you know, we should at least see this?
No.
Okay. Okay, all right. Then I guess on my comments on the survey,
Unless, I mean, if there's others who disagree with me, they
Well,
can say it, but I
don't like the idea that, I mean, if some of us saw it and some of us did not, then we should all see it.
yeah, well, it's not on the agenda per se, but Janelle brought it up, and I
Right.
had meant to comment if it came up that whoever did get them understands that was not the work of the ad hoc committee.
Right, and I'm kind of asking Janelle what this was that we should either discount or give that slant to it, that it was one-sided and everything, because I haven't seen it. I didn't get his email, so I don't know exactly what this was about.
So really what we had,
I think that you're trying to discredit it.
part of the challenge that we had is that, in my opinion, we started out from a place that was dysfunctional in the task force. So my philosophy was that we go out, we survey, we balance land use and budget. And so it's kind of a very, very structured process, you know, consistent with what Christopher has said and how you approach these things. And so that's the framework that I also came to this committee with in making the original recommendation on how to move forward. We had another gentleman, Mr. Tooley, that you've heard us mention. He had, in the very beginning of this, a very specific idea down to the inventory and the budget on what he thought should happen. And so he had marched forward with approval and getting buy-in from the neighborhood, you know, from his neighbors, et cetera, et cetera. So when the task force was assembled, we came from two different places. He came with his idea that his plan was baked. This is a new neighborhood. This is their park. They had some money. They had the impression that they had entitlement to all park funds, including the Viridian, okay? And so they move forward, and of course, at this point, they're quite vested in their plan. I'm moving forward saying we need to look at this as an area park and start out from a place of planning and consider diverse needs in that park. How do we connect the bike trail? How do we connect other trails? Maybe what are the needs in Park and Rec, right? So I'm starting out with a blank slate, opposite places that we began from. And we just couldn't get past that. So
Get past
we couldn't find any kind of a compromise.
Okay, between the two different directions this was going.
Between the two different philosophies about how to move forward. And so the more the conversation, the more personal it became, the more contentious it became. And so ultimately, the decision was made to survey the neighbors and then ultimately to close out the task force and not move forward. So then what ended up happening is after the survey was completed, Mr. Tooley forwarded off to you basically a rendition of that original plan.
Of his plan.
Of his plan, the plan that existed before the task force was created, and said, this is the plan that we should move forward with.
And that was before, and his plan was before the survey as well.
His plan looks pretty much the same from before the task force to the time that the survey data was committed to the piece that was sent out within the past few days. And, you know, as mentioned, I was approached and said, have you seen this? And we found out that in fact, 2 of the 3 co-chairs had not seen it. 2 of the people who were on the committee who felt a planning process was in order did not see it. So it was the people who agreed with the plan, and then certain people within the city, which based on documentation looked like this body, as well as the Common Council, appeared to be in that email string. And so I think my point is to say that there's some history here. That plan did not get approved by the ad hoc committee. It did not necessarily represent, it isn't transparent about what went on. And then there were other aspects, as I mentioned in my previous comments, that suggest that it may not have been a clean result. So sometimes you see a survey and you can count on the data that's in there.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, when we see, approximately 80% of the people responding, and they all pretty much seem to have checked every one of the same boxes.
Which we
And we
noticed.
know that they were instructed in precise detail to do that. You know, in those cases, I look at the survey results, I take a look at the email that was sent, and say, this may not be what it appears to be to you. Did that answer your question?
I think so. You're saying, even though we, I guess, didn't see it, so we're comparing, well, we're kind of thinking about something that we have not seen, a complete black box kind of thing. But you're saying discredit it, Sue is saying discredit it.
I mean, you certainly could see it, and I have no issue with that, but I do think it's important that when you see it, that you understand it's the same deliverable that existed before the task force even began, and it is not what the task force agreed to.
Okay. So then, to my few notes on what I picked out from the survey right here, just to say what I thought the results led to, on a few things anyway, just to try and get something out of this survey. I did read somewhere that there is apparently a well station or something going on, which seems like a good opportunity to have a shelter combined with that, as done at Hugel Jamestown. I read some comments. I think that it lent to not having a parking lot on site in the park, and instead use on-street parking, and I would very much be in agreement with not having on-site parking, a parking lot in the park. As other people said, it just wastes the park space. I do have a thought on that I would like to expand upon a little. I feel that parking on the street works out good for a neighborhood. I don't know this neighborhood really well as far as the streets and how much street frontage there is and everything, but I think that generally on-street parking around a park works well because the people who live around there are probably gone during the day and the streets are otherwise empty, and coming to a park is a short-term visit during the day, so they can park on the streets which are available, and then they leave at the end of the day. Maybe some overlap, but, you know, people coming home at the end of the day who may want to park on the street in front of their houses or so, and generally the people using the park are leaving. I do feel, though, as far as planning, that neighborhoods should be built so that there's enough parking on their own private property or in their own private parking lots as far as apartments and such like that, and not count on street parking. Same idea, get off the streets and park, you know, in your driveway and in a parking lot, so that it just works out for the neighborhood. And then, you know, you have to plan street parking for all year long. I mean, you can't plan on the ideal conditions in summer and and count on our street parking. This is a little bit diversion here. But, you know, we do have alternate side parking. We have winter, we have lots of snow on the streets and everything, so I don't like neighborhoods counting on on-street parking. And then I think that the on-street parking works well for the availability of parking to use a park. Back to my notes, it looked like field lighting was opposed. I kind of think that the field lighting probably infringes or, you know, blinds out the neighbors who live right around there. And I saw 2 different survey questions on path lighting, which they seem to be in favor of the path lighting. One thing on path lighting, as I think of McGaw and McKee, I would like to see some investigation into motion sensor path lighting. So if someone is walking down the path, the lights come on as they go along, rather than, as I see at both of these, you know, community parks, the lights are on all night long. The park closes at 10, but the lights are on all night long. I'm not saying shut the lights off, because then the bad people are in the park. But if it was motion sensor lighting, then when someone walks through, the lights come on. When they're gone and there's nobody there for the next hour or several hours, the lights can stay off.
Scott, just real quickly, Patrick. Scott, did you have something you had wanted to reply to Patrick about that he mentioned
But,
earlier?
and
That's
again,
my
I think these kinds of comments and ideas are really offline, or, you know, comments that could be received, you know, outside of the forum of the park commission. I think it takes time away from the park commission, but and I do in regards to the parking. You know, it could in theory be a combination of both. You know, if we have a shelter that's reservable, you know, that's going to be reservable on the weekend, and then people who are there as residents are going to be parking on the street. So the idea of having some supplemental parking for the shelter rental seems to make sense.
This is an area park, right?
Yes.
It would be that we'd be, yep, as an area park, so it'd be a rentable shelter.
Okay. I mean, again, my opinion is not waste the park space on a parking lot. I'm thinking of other parks, like Hugel Jamestown is also an area park, right? And I think that Swan Creek might be an area park, and neither of them have parking lots. They have shelters for sure that are reservable. What was that?
Tower Hill.
Right, that's another one, yeah. So even though they may have reservable shelters, I just like the on-street parking.
Okay,
And
so,
that's all my comments on the
Okay.
notes that I made.
yeah. All right, so I'm not hearing a large group agreeing with me that we should next month talk about specific issues that I learned by this experience that I had thought you might want to know, but you'll find out about them because I'll let Scott know and then comment as we go along.
Just for
Is that
the sake of this controversy, I'd kind of like to see this, if you would like to.
Well, I did not create a long list of grievances or anything of the sort. What I would like to impart is some of the things I read, and I already read them. So I'll just flesh those out for the future and explain them to Scott, and I can send them to the whole commission if it's made part of the record, if that may help. But I made the point of all of us, and I know Scott and staff are aware of the concerns about the survey, and it wouldn't have been a design that they're going to come up with isn't a verbatim survey to drawings. Had the ad hoc committee continued, we would have had survey results, and then we would have had a lot of discussion. Because the one piece of paper I handed around that whether it should be part of some way, yes, it isn't right for me to hand a piece of paper around and it's not part of public record. But that was just to illustrate where the restrooms will be, and it is at the far western edge of the park space, the northwest corner. And there's 10 more acres, and one of the things we would have been grappling with is where do we put play equipment so that people with young children especially can get there in a hurry when they need to, things like that. We had just never gotten to that point of beginning to talk those logistics. And so I won't go through, I don't and I don't want to look backwards either. I just want to make sure people know that there would have been and there is more information than what is just in the survey. That's very valuable, and a lot of the comments, et cetera, and there's probably findings in there that we can rely on, but just that people are aware. Did you have something else, Janelle? I thought I saw you looking like you wanted to say something.
I'm good at this point.
Okay. And Julia, go ahead.
I want to mention that it's almost 8 o'clock.
Yes.
We need to move on, so.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
All right. And I buried my copy of the agenda in the interim. Here it is. So we're done with, I think that was end of item 5.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you. Janelle. And we have Communication Park and Recreation, Open Space Plan Update Timeline, 6A.
Yep, and as I've been kind of talking about, Wade proposed the concept or the idea to the Park Commission, and you were good with it, so this is the next step as far as the timeline and the process that we'll go through to begin that Park and Open Space Plan update. So that's, what page is that?
45.
45, right. So that's the proposed plan and timeline and steps to do the update of the Park and Open Space Plan.
Okay, so it's 45 in the pack, in that section, but it's 85 of 137, correct? Am I in the right place?
No, I think it says,
That looks like what I'm seeing.
Okay, yeah,
I've got it up on the screen.
yeah. Okay, your screen matches my screen, so I'm happy now.
So that's the, just for your information, the timeline that we're going to go through. Then the second bit of information is, as you recall, last month we talked about the egg pack. I do want to make clear in this egg park that the community garden portion of it, which is up to the road, that's something that, we have in other parks. But this idea of the small-scale egg, there's still a lot of hoops and a lot of things that need to be gone through before that's even a reality. So I just want to make sure that it's clear that we're, going to be concentrating on expanded community gardens at the top part, but then maybe at some point in time it'll be a larger, small-scale type of park with the balance of the area. So just wanted to made sure I made that clear.
I have a question.
Yep.
Okay, so here you say that the first item is draft consultant park planning management RFP. So from where the funds are coming for this planning? The Park Commission did approve in the operating budget for 2022
$15,000, well, and this goes to that planning, $15,000 in the operating budget to advance different items or areas in regards to community gardens, whether it's water to Swan or to the Hugo Jamestown, or water going this way, or planning, or whatever it might be for community garden types of
Okay,
facilities.
okay, now I want to be sure. Okay, thank
And then if we're good with that one, the next item is actually Julia. There was a lot of CIP amendments that were approved by the Common Council. And if you, I guess what I wanted to do is I wanted to provide an update to the Park Commission on those CIP improvements. And Julia, if you don't mind, or do you want to do it, Julia, or do you want me to roll through it and then you can
I
provide?
I can mention, that we have a lot of wins that night, and I hope they stay for next year.
Yeah.
So one of the proposals was from the town of Madison is to, we need to determine, the number of ash trees that they might be poor quality. So Alder Gabriela Helgard introduced an amendment to, to allocate funding to remove all those trees in case that they need to be removed. And it was approved. The other one is that I introduced, it was the McKee Farm Park improvement. It was to bring, to restore the funding for the McKee Farm Park tennis court, and also to do the fencing. So for $165,000, and it was approved too. Okay, so that one was great. And then there was another for the 62-61 project. It was a 9-spring golf course. That one was $75,000 to allocate for the shelter. We delayed. No, we delayed. We
Took it
we
out.
restored the original timing. It was 2026. So, but then I think the council voted down, isn't it? They
Yeah.
removed it completely.
Yeah, they removed it completely, right?
Yeah. So that one, and then the tennis court improvement, that one, it was another win. We restored the funding again, and this one is for the Chicory Middle Tennis Court that is in very, very bad shape. And we receive a lot of email, people that they're playing and they want, a better tennis court. So the council restored the funding for this. This one is going to be done in 2024. And then the other thing was the neighborhood hub, the phase 2, the community center. The funding, one of the source funding was removed from the CIP. We restored the funding for the phase 2, and also we restored it to the time that it was originally planned. And the teen center was the other one that also it was originally was removed, pushed back to 2031. And then they removed all the funding. The mayor removed all of that in his original CIP. The council decided to restore the funding and to bring it back to 24, 25, and also there was a lot of changing in this project, so that the council felt more comfortable approving this project. So, and I think that's it.
Well, and actually, if I might, Julia, I don't know if I included it, but Alder Gabriela, she also put in the Moraine Edge Park for 2029.
Yeah, it's there, yeah, I forgot, it's at the back,
So
yes.
that was also
Yeah.
placed back
And
in
this-
there as a placeholder.
As a placeholder for 2029, and the
Yep.
council approved it.
Yep. And Teen Center and
So
then the
that's it.
Moraine Edge Park, yeah. So as Julia mentioned, it was a big night for park recreation and forestry, actually, so I'm pretty happy with that. And thank you for your leadership there, Julia.
Yeah, all of the amendments passed except for the one about the addition to the Nine Springs Golf Course shed, and that's out, so we kind of don't have to worry about that, I guess, anymore.
We don't, but
Well,
Dan does.
maybe Dan Larson does.
Okay, so, where are we here?
Well, and that's actually all my communication updates. So
Okay.
now we're right on to staff report.
All righty, thank you. Staff reports, go right ahead. We have what is in the packet, but Scott, anything you want to say?
No, I did include in the forestry report, Anna's report, Samantha's report, and then actually the draft minutes of the June agenda. But that's about it. And I see it's 8:04, so you did a...
Well,
I have a question.
Yes,
Can I
go
ask a
right
question,
ahead.
Sue?
yes,
In the forestry report, it mentioned that there was a volunteer weed out event in the Harlan Hills Park. Why? I think it should be good if the park commission receive those events too, because maybe some of this one was in my district and I didn't know, so.
oh, okay, and I'm looking for how that's
the,
worded.
Page 91?
81,
Okay.
yes.
Oh, I'm
So-
getting, I'm closer than I thought. Okay, page 91.
So
Oh,
it would be nice, Scott, if all these events in parks,
Yeah.
volunteer
and
opportunities that
and
we get to know.
Scott might be able to clarify better, but just, I'm going to take a stab on it. That's the Harlan Hills. They've got a group, a small but very dedicated
Yeah.
group of volunteers, and I don't know if that's just specifically that group. But it does speak to several other issues where, or not issues, but opportunities where, it's that group, and now Julia knows about it, and I know she'd like to be supportive of things they do. So you know that if there's further questions, you can double check with Anna Healy about it, Julia, and because I may not have given you all the information that relates to that. And Scott, anything else you can say?
Well, and there's a lot of things that they're coordinating with volunteers, and so, yeah, it's...
Yeah, they've done a lot, and it's changed and really looks so much nicer just in the last couple of
Yeah.
years, I think.
And I will
Well,
tell you-
many years, but just the last.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Do we need to are we ready to go to future agenda items?
I want to add one little comment. Not good news, but I checked on the pickleball courts in McGaw Park minutes before coming here, and the court nets are not there yet, nor is the striping, so it's still waiting for that. The fences were put up last week, I think.
Our goal is to have them ready by the end of the year, so,
End of the year.
well, it's...
I mean, that's all that's needed now is the nets and the striping, and it's ready to play. So I'm kind of disappointed that nothing has happened the last few days.
Is it just that materials aren't available for the netting? I mean, we don't
Well,
weave that in the back room, do we, Scott, on lunch break?
I don't have it.
Okay.
It's getting the contractors there and those kinds of things, so.
Okay.
Yeah, they work a day or two and get a bunch done, and then they're gone. So it's like whenever they show up the next time, I presume it would be for court nets and striping, and then, I mean, they've been doing, somebody has, I presume them, have been doing landscape, filling in the black dirt around the edges and
They have, that's good.
Yes,
Yep.
they've done
They
that.
Start to restore
They
that.
put
That's
gravel.
us.
There's
That's-
red gravel between the multi-use path,
Yep.
in the 2-foot wide between the multi-use path and the edge of the court paving. So that, well, I suppose there's grass and everything has to be planted, but unfortunately, no nets yet.
I'm sure it's on there. It's on their list, yeah.
Oh, yeah. it better be.
Scott, can you check that? Can you follow up? Because this will be great if, they are ready by fall. And the other thing I want to mention about the pickleball court is it will be nice when they're ready that, you know, the Parks Department has a plan to promote, you know, to the public that they're ready and, you know, ready to use, and it's good, okay? If you can work
Yeah,
on
the
that.
reason I checked just before this meeting is I hope we could say they're open, but they're not.
I think, it doesn't Chad put some things like that on the Facebook or the homepage of the, when something like that to announce they're ready on the Fitchburg Facebook or the homepage of the website, city website?
We certainly can.
Yeah.
I know the.
It seems so highly anticipated.
Well, and I know the people, the pickleball people, the people that are going to be using it, they're watching it, so rest assured when.
They're weaving the nets.
What's that?
They're weaving the nets. They're gonna make the nets that we're gonna put up.
No, but rest assured, once they're ready to play, they're gonna be out there.
All right.
so.
Okay. Should we move on to future agenda items? Scott, are you gonna tell us about anything we're gonna do next month?
I can't think of,
Not right now. Too soon to say?
no, but we'll keep moving on a lot of different things, I guess.
Yes. And announcements, the next two meetings are September 2nd and October 7th, 6 PM. And finally, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Approved.
it's 8:06.